of webinars that we've done, mostly around marketing. So this is oriented towards more looking at an organization from an ecosystem perspective. So we've broken things down from completely from a strategic marketing perspective. Where are you in the marketplace? How are you positioned? What is the competitive advantage that you enjoy in that particular marketplace? And then looking at it from a content perspective. What are people actually valuing about a product? How do we develop relationships? And this is that fourth part in that process of going through and looking at what does it take for me to develop trusted relationships with my clients. So I know this is near and dear to your heart based on our last conversation and your expertise in marketing. So I think this will definitely be at least something to start a conversation, if nothing else. So if you do have comments that you want to post via hashtag, you'll see that this is under hashtag StratIQ Sustainability. And then our Twitter handle for this particular series is @StratIQ_market. And for all the webinars that I do, I really do enjoy taking questions actively throughout the presentation. I just think it makes it a lot more interesting to see what's on folks' minds, and sometimes I actually have an opportunity to learn some things as I think about how the content itself relates to an individual situation. So if something does come up and it piques your interest, I would certainly welcome the question, especially as it pertains to this subject, which is about building out sustainable organizations. We talked a little bit the last time that you and I got together about my background, and I like to say, I think for purposes of a webinar, so people can get to know me, that I've always been working in leadership, and even after I graduated high school and went off to the University of South Carolina for my undergraduate studies, I've been really focused in on leadership. I suppose at age 18, you don't really know exactly what you want to do. But I've always known that I wanted to do something with regard to business and really focusing in more on how organizations worked. And that's what I found when I went into the military. So I really like to position my background from the standpoint of I've always wanted to work in leadership and lead organizations. My experience in the military beginning in 1991 and my service in the Rangers has given me a toolkit that I think is relatively unique. I look back in my career, both from a business perspective, getting an MBA and applying that in financial services, as well as the work that I've done throughout my career in the military. I just think it's an interesting toolkit to be able to apply to organizations. And I think you'll see this during our talk today. Looking at sustainability, how do organizations act as ecosystems? To me, that's one of the most fascinating parts of what I do, is seeing how people work together and seeing how the supply chain comes together for a variety of different purposes, ultimately oriented on delivering value to a customer. So again, I would love to dig a little bit deeper on some of the subject matter, and hopefully you'll find it interesting from just a unique perspective. So to recap, we're looking at this through a different set of phases. Looking at how companies define their competitive advantage and competitive edge, and I like to segment, for most of my clients, a distinct difference between what clients do in the marketplace to talk about themselves, how they price and they promote product, from what they do internally. For most of my clients, competitive advantage is not necessarily about looking at what they do in the marketplace, but what they do behind the scenes and how they operate and how they gain leverage using their internal resources. So from that perspective, we then get into how do companies create awareness about what they do, and seek out the best clients and the most ideal clients. And that's for again, from StratIQ's perspective and my perspective, it's very data driven. We want to really get to know who clients are and what they're all about and what they really value about our products and services. And then we initiate contact with them. So what does it mean for us to reach out into a particular marketplace, to go out and have those initial conversations? And that leads us into today's subject, which is, what does it take for us to build sustainable relationships and to be in community with our customers or our clients? And that's a fascinating subject. I think it's unique simply because, as we'll see here, most of the time when we're talking about sustainability, we're thinking about it from an operations perspective and a manufacturing of a product. So when I look at it, and I think of all the literature that's out there today and all the studies about zero waste, or building things on an eco-friendly basis, or using reusable materials, or having a zero footprint as a business. That's certainly one aspect, and a very, very important one for looking at how we develop product. But I also think that from an organizational perspective, our people and our marketing fit into similar ecosystems. And so the business literature, the typical business literature that's out there, talks about value streams and business process management, and those certainly are important. But I encourage clients to think of their companies in very similar ways, that they also have an ecosystem that exists within their organization, and to consider that to build an organization for the long term, it has to be sustainable. We have to have these trusted relationships for all of the stakeholders that are in a particular organization, not just the customers, but the people that work with us, our suppliers, people that we contract with. I think it's incredibly important to look at things that way. So for purposes of today's discussion, we're going to talk about sustainability in business from an organizational perspective. And the other part to that is that for companies that are out there looking to produce things in a more eco-friendly way, or in a zero waste environment, the way that they run the organization directly impacts and translates into how we operate and run our company. So I think there's a direct correlation between companies that operate on a sustainable basis internally, from a people and a relationship perspective, and then how they approach looking at building out products. So the importance of building customer trust. For this particular piece, I always reference back to a book by Jared Diamond that was probably written about 20 years ago, and he states in one of the first couple chapters that the first time people meet each other in the jungle, and these were our prehistoric ancestors, they would be trying to determine, is this person that I'm talking to or that I'm communicating with, are they a threat or not? And that's that really is the essence of what initiating contact, even in a business setting, is all about. When we talk to our clients, they're trying to determine, first of all, is this person somebody that is going to deliver value to me? And that's where the 7-second rule comes into play with regard to delivering a value proposition. So they want to know in a very succinct way, who are you? And what is it that you do that's going to be beneficial to me? What's in it for me? So that initial 7 seconds, of course, people that have been in marketing for a number of years, and I know you have, Jeff, they want that value proposition to be tight. They want it to be very succinct, and they want to understand exactly what you do. And so for a lot of clients that I work with, that's what we spend a great deal of time doing, is how do we refine that value proposition down to a very simple subject that somebody can get right away. The next step in developing that is to look at what are the initial mini contracts that I have with my clients. How do I begin to establish that trusted relationship? And what does it look for me to begin to then fulfill those mini contracts within the framework of my value stream or my ecosystem? So again, for purposes of today's webinar, I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. So when I think of the value stream, and I'm talking about an ecosystem, I'm looking at my prospects and the way I go out into the marketplace is more or less the materials inside of that function. And when I have the right prospects, or I have the right clients that begin to come into my ecosystem, how do I take the resources of my organization and begin to communicate value within that value stream or that ecosystem along a set progression, so that when I get to the end, customers or clients or prospects or my community even, they can see that I've got this bundled package that's together, and it's very lean, and it's very purposeful, and it's very focused, and they can see that. I think the more thoughtful we are about understanding how our customers interact with us and build trust, the more they're going to be able to focus in and see the value within that relationship. Today we see quite a bit of literature that's coming out about creating user experiences. We see this primarily online with our website designers who come in and they talk about UX and the UI components of building out websites. But it transcends really the entire experience that a customer is going to have with us as they go through and they look at who it is that we are. So from again, from a data perspective and from just a pure intuition perspective, it's really important for us to know who our customers are. And the great thing about today's marketplace is it's very easy for us to get out and gather a tremendous amount of data about who our customers are, what they like. I was doing a project very recently for a client in Calgary, and over a period of weeks, we were able to gather roughly 70,000 pieces of data about what customers really liked about a particular brand, what they were looking for, different affinity groups that they were a part of, and really, when I think about it, especially for, I guess it's really product irrespective. When we think about products, whether they're a service that we provide or a nonprofit that we're a part of, or they're a physical product, people like to know that product, again, it goes beyond just a consumption experience. We see that quite a bit, especially in the experience economy. People want to know that the person on the other side of the equation gets who they are. And it's a way for us to create meaningful conversations. So when we create content for our websites, for social media, for our blogs, for the physical print material, if we happen to be doing a lot of public relations or workshops such as this, what we're looking at is, what is it really that people want? Do the folks like to have, are they people that are interested in news? Are they people that are interested in politics? Are they interested in finances or art or food or outdoor sports? What types of things are going to be important to them? And then what we do is we create those conversations that link our product from a value perspective to those psychographic or those internal relationships, those internal conversations that we have. How do we relate the product to the people that we're trying to connect with? So from day one, it's an interactive conversation. It allows us to really get to know our customers. And then from an ecosystem perspective, it helps us design better products. So if we know what our products like, and we're on a continuous design, if we've got a continuous design process within that ecosystem, what it allows us to do really is to go out, engage with our clients, again, through a series of either surveys, workshops, the types of customer service that we do, and gather information about, well, what do people really like about our product? What is it that's most important to them? And how do we then continue to be relevant in terms of, oh, wait a second, there we go. There's a question. What do you mean by ecosystem? So when we think of, Jeff, when we think of an ecosystem just in a traditional sense, you and I might discuss, a particular region, and we could be talking about, how a community of people or animals or living organisms operate within a particular environment. So we would be talking about the collective function of an environmental system. When we talk about an organization, we're talking about the things that make that organization tick. So we're looking at the people that are involved. We're looking at what a particular company actually produces, how they produce it, and then what's the lifeblood of the organization. How are they actually, what's the blood that flows through the organization? Is it capital? Is it ideas? Is it a particular resource? So in this case, what we're talking about is looking at an organization through the lens or framework of an ecosystem model. And again, I could use value stream or business processes to describe that. Does that answer your question? So again, looking at this, from the standpoint of a customer, how do we engage with the customer? How do we gather information? And I'm going to add one other thing on here. There's a lot of the social media out there. One in particular, Google has done a great job, I think, of enabling consumers who use the AdWords interface to go out and gather a tremendous amount of data on clients. So again, in a relatively short period of time, I have a customer that's in Calgary. In 3 weeks, we've gathered roughly 70,000 different points of data that we can look for different customer segments, and we can describe what they're looking for in very interesting detail. So these are just different ways for us to go out into the marketplace and interact with consumers. So what's the point? I think this is really, if I was to take one slide away from this and say what's the most important piece of looking at an organization as an ecosystem, it's a way to apply resources to deliver value to customers. It's a way for us to continuously maintain our relevance in the marketplace, and to not only reinforce value, but I would even add something into this. I would say that we're continuously looking to add additional value to clients. So, to me, at least in the work that I do, I think it's important not only to deliver that initial value, but to continuously be improving. I kind of referenced it a little bit in my background, but I just think personal development and continuously looking at, well, what do people really want from this relationship? What is it that people are looking for? I think that's incredibly important. I think Apple has done an incredible job of doing that. You see it with the launches continuously of their new products. I find it fascinating. There isn't much that changes between an Apple iPhone 4, 5, 6, or 7 in terms of features, but they're continuously beginning to develop and understand, well, my clients want greater battery life, or they want a camera that's got greater pixel clarity to it, or they want something that delivers better audio quality or has higher storage capacities. And so they can take all of these different features and continuously look at maintaining development. As they go through that process, they get to know more about what their customers want, and they maintain their relevance. And the way that they go through the fast cycle design process is something that I think companies large and small can engage with. And at least for my clients, it's something that I like to integrate no matter where we come in, whether it's in marketing or we're talking about organizational development or how they run their operations. I like to get to the point where we're continuously looking at innovation and how do we innovate and how do we get better. So that's something that certainly we can discuss on an individual consultation. For points of differentiation, and I know, Jeff, for you've gone through this a lot in your marketing career. The data is important, and I know you have a data company, so again, that's something that we need to follow up on. But I like to do a root cause analysis on why people actually value what it is we say we do. So an example of that, for again continuing in for the Apple, would be the Apple product example would be, well, why do people continuously like to see new products? What's important about that, and why is it relevant? You know, and way to develop that would be to say, well, people value that kind of development because technology is consistently changing. Well, why is technology consistently changing? Well, there's a lot of competitors in the marketplace, and you know what we've seen over the last 8 to 10 years is that technology follows a particular rubric where processing times double on a periodic basis. The ability for people to get access at a lower and lower price continues to evolve. So it's important for us to continuously develop. As we look at root cause and we drill down, it allows us to get to know not only what our customers or our prospects are looking for, but in a very data-driven way, we can begin to back up in a root cause focus what we're doing to build out value statements for our customers. And then when we go back and we start having conversations about our product, we can be very targeted, and we can say specifically, well, no, this is really why our product is very focused and relevant to you. So in an era, I guess we're evolving past permission marketing, but I like this idea where we know our ideal client. They've contacted us. They know what they want. And we're having this dialogue about value. When we get to the root cause about what we're doing for a customer, they get the sense not only have we built this product for them, but we understand who they are, and we can communicate it through a series of our 5 whys. I mentioned 3 here. For most of the clients that I work with, I like to develop at least 5, but I think 3 is kind of the ante into the game from a marketing perspective. So again, to kind of wrap up, and I know, Jeff, you asked this earlier, when I look at business, I try to treat it as an ecosystem. How does this function? You know, how do we look at this in such a way where we take all the resources about what a company does, how they do it, the reason behind their entry into the marketplace, or why are they doing it, and then looking at people. You know, how do people interact within this ecosystem, and how are they configured? What kind of skills do they bring in? How are they staffed? Oh, wait, I got another raised hand. Let's see. Can you give an example of a why value statement? Okay. So let's go back to that here. So what would an example of that look like? So let's use Apple as an example. So why is greater audio quality in an iPhone important? So that's one of their talking points. Actually, an easier one would be battery life. You know, I don't know about you. I own an iPhone, and for years I've been thinking about this. You know, why is it important to have greater battery life? I think it's pretty intuitive, but it's been a focus of theirs for a long time. So why is battery life important? It's important because charging times matter. I don't want to have my phone charged for 24 hours in order to get a full charge on my phone. Well, why is saving time important? Well, saving time is important because in a busy world, you know, we don't have a lot of time to wait. Well, why is life is busy? Because, you know, people have families, people have activities that they do, they work. And there's only a finite amount of time available to us. Well, why do we have all these activities in life? Well, this gets into the psychographic nature. Well, you know, some people, you know, have large families, and so, you know, they've got three kids like myself, and they've got activities strewn throughout the day. When we have a value statement, then I encourage my clients to work back with. I have a lot of activities going on at my house, and so it's important for me to be able to conserve my time, and therefore, you know, having a charging time for my battery that's only 20 minutes instead of 24 hours is incredibly important. That's why having a fast charging battery is important. So when I do a root cause analysis, I can drill down from the top down. This is what I say about my product. And then when I go down to the bottom of it and I do a root cause, I can find out, well, what is it that people are really valuing about this? And usually what I like to do is try to get down, what is that human experience? Not just a product feature, what's the human experience at the bottom that people are really asking me about? Because again, I mean, to me, what's important about that customer and company relationship or product relationship is I want them to understand that I get them, and I want to be able to build trust in that relationship. Does that answer that question? So moving into, let's see, I think we've already kind of covered the business as an ecosystem piece here. So that basically wraps up the webinar portion for today. You know, I know that you and I, Jeff, have had an initial conversation with regard to what I do with StratIQ, and you know, at this point, based on what you've heard, if you have any questions, I'd love to address those here. You know, formally, this will be available on YouTube, so we'll have this available here probably within the next, I say 2 hours or so, and then I'm going to send out the slides and notes. And you know, if something comes to mind over the next week or so, you know, I'd certainly love to follow up and hear what's going on. And I think we actually should have a touch point with regard to your other company out there that deals with data and see how it might function in for StratIQ. So anything else that you want to cover today, Jeff? I think it's just myself, you and Lauren who are on the call right now. So I'm open to questions. All right. Jeff, shoot me an email, and let's plan on getting something on the calendar so we can do that follow up. And I look forward to talking to you soon.